Hello, and welcome to another episode of Lost Like Mike. This one's coming a little bit late, very late actually. This is supposed to be the Father's Day episode, so it was going to be recorded on Father's Day, and I recorded an episode in all honesty. I am your host, by the way, Mike Gonzalez. Thank you for listening, thank you for subscribing, telling a friend, and messaging me at lostlikemike@gmail.com. Anyway, I recorded an entire episode, and I have to tell you, when I listened back to the episode, it wouldn't load onto it wouldn't upload to the editing. I airdrop it to edit it, and it wouldn't work. And so I thought, first of all, I thought it was a sign that maybe I should review it and take some time before I posted it, which I rarely do. But usually subconsciously I know that there's something wrong with the episode. And I had a really negative take on Father's Day inadvertently. I thought I was being super positive and covering all the things that I wanted to talk about, but when listening back to it, it sounded really negative, unnecessarily. And it wasn't communicating what I was trying to say. So I just said, you know what? Let's just take two and give it a shot again. Plus, it's been a couple days post Father's Day. I got a chance to see my son and hang out with my daughter later on in that day, and some of the things that were bugging me so bad, I had I can get into and talk about in a more complete contextual way, where I can start off with what was on my mind, but I can sum it up with the conclusion that I think is a bit more hopeful and a bit better. For example, when my son was very young, his mother and we went our own ways. And let's back it up a little bit. So when I recorded the episode, or the intention of this episode is to talk about what was on my mind, which is what constitutes a good father, what makes a good dad. And I thought that my experience, my opinion can only be fed, or it could only be supported by the things that I know, my own father, my own experiences as a father, etc. So I was thinking about the lessons I've learned as a father and what it means to me to be a good dad. Basic enough. So I thought about my experience with my son. When he was very little, before he was the age of 3, I spent a lot of time. His mom and I lived together. It's a long story, and one of which we don't really have to get into. But what is important is that I loved every minute of being his dad. I worked 2 jobs, and I was also playing shows, so kind of 2.5 jobs, 3 jobs, however you want to see it. But I would get home really late at night, and after working the different jobs, and then I would say goodnight to him. He was asleep, and I would wake up in the morning, bright and early, because he was an early riser, and I would get him his little breakfast, and I would watch early morning shows with him, often half asleep, but trying to be present. and I would play with him until I had to go back to work. And I love that life. I could have done that, you know. But for whatever reason, uh, his mom and I, we didn't stay together. We weren't together. Anyway, long story short. So it definitely changed the dynamic of his relationship with mine. As all custody sort of battles go, and where I would see him, it went from 3 or 4 days a week to, over a course of months and a series of unfortunate events, to where I would only see him for a couple hours on Sunday of every week. And there was always these constant hurdles and challenges brought about by the circumstances of our arrangement. So, but you could see the strain, because whereas I had a daily influence on his life and a daily presence in his life, into where I just had a couple hours a week. And you try to cram all of the experiences in a couple hours, take them to the fun adventure places, and try to put in life lessons, and talk as much as you can. And but like, I used to sing Golden Slumbers to him when he was little. It's for the Beatles song where you say, once there was a way to get back homeward, or whatever. And then when I had to set up a house for us to stay, and he would stay with my parents when we'd meet up there when it was visitation, I remember singing to him, putting him to bed, spending our weekends together. And one night he said, no more, Dad, don't sing that. I mean, this is coming from a 4-year-old, and it hurts too much. And that just about killed me. There's nothing I would have endured. There was nothing I would not have endured. It's a double negative. I know what I'm trying to say. I would have put up with a lot of stuff, to be there for him. And towards the end I did. But ultimately it wasn't, up to me. But and then very quickly you see a lot of these landmarks just pass. His first day of school. When they say it goes quick, it goes far faster when you only have a fraction of the time. Where you're thinking, as a parent, you think, I mean, their youth goes by so quickly, and then you're thinking, oh well, now I only get to see him one day a week, only a couple hours in that day. I don't even get to put him to sleep, let him, And then when you do, you get these few and far between. You get the summer vacation together, where it's like we started going on these fishing trips for 2-3 nights, and it just became very, he was growing up so fast and so different, almost just really fast. And some weeks he wouldn't want to hang out, like some weeks it was like, yeah, it was always, it's your choice if you want to spend time with me, And and then the influence of other people, like his great grandparents or his his mom or his grandfather, different people on their side of the family became came to have a larger role in his life because of that dynamic. Because it's hard to compete with people that are seeing him far more than you are, right? I don't know why I'm complaining or talking about this right now, but now that he just graduated from high school and he's come back, we were sitting down and talking about his life, and he calls me up and he says, I want to come, I want to hang out with you, I want to talk. And it's been a sort of a recent development where he's doing this more frequently, and he's seems to be listening a lot to my advice and the things that I'm saying. A lot of it's cautionary tales because I've been there, done that, the things that he's going through, right? But so last night we were sitting together, talking about just general things, and he said to me, like he realized that telling me that he didn't want to spend time with me when he was growing up, that it was a mistake, and that he apologized. And then in a little while, later in the conversation, he recognized some of the ways that he spoke to me over the years, and it just it meant a lot to me, man. Like, because we can never get that time back, and I can never express to him everything of the why and the how, and I would never like speak bad about his mom or tell certain, it's just more of a matter of like, she's human and I'm human, and we all make mistakes, and humans are fallible, and parents are real people, and somehow in all this mess we have to find a way to forgive and move on, and take advantage of the time that we have now. So if you want, and it sounds, and we laughed and we were talking about all this stuff, and it was great. I mean, I try to tell him through my own life experiences, like, I made mistakes, lots of them, and they're worthless if I can't express them to him as a cautionary tale, or like a learn from this. Like, he got a ticket, okay. Gets a license and out the gate just wants to get a ticket. But, and I'm not going to get into the details of what he did, but my point is that I told him about when I was his age. I remember I was a late bloomer when it came to getting a driver's license. I only think I got a driver's license until I was in my 20s. But anyway, point being, when I was his age, I got a ticket for no license, no insurance. I don't even know how they didn't tow the car. I don't remember the circumstances by which how it happened, or what happened at the end. I just remember I was driving a girl trying to impress her, and I drove her to work. And we were like a block away from her job. And I ran a light. I didn't make a complete stop. I think it was on a right on red or something. I just took it like I was Fu Manchu. And when I took the right, the lights lit up, and then this this girl, she had really pretty big eyes, and these crocodile tears just started coming out of her eyes. She was mortified, and the police officer was like feeling bad about the whole thing, about her. He didn't care about me, but it was like, dude, I'm sorry. I don't know if she either walked it the rest of the way to work but yeah, that was pretty much it for us. Anyway, no, but my point was to him was that I needed that wake up call. You know, it wouldn't be the last ticket that I got, but it was definitely a wake up call that like I explained to my son, sometimes you need to realize that you're not above the reality of these things. Like you may think, because I haven't been touched by these things, like getting a ticket or getting an auto accident or whatever, fill in the blank. You think that you're savvy on the whole thing and you're not going to get impacted by these things, but we're all just one step away from it. It's just if you don't respect the possibility, then you're destined to experience it. Anyway, I guess the point of all of that was to say that I've been kind of harboring a sense that maybe, I remember there was one time where he was talking about how his great-grandfather, who he would spend a lot of time at their house, him and his great-grandmother, over the years, when his mom would drop him off over at their house and he would spend time there. And I was always envious of the amount of time that he would get to spend with his family. And one day he talked about how much of a father figure that man was in his life. And I remember I didn't handle it well. I acted very angry about it. And it was no fault of his. He was just stating a fact of no, like, the circumstance was not his fault. He spent a lot of time with these people. And but my point to him that day in all my anger was just that it was never my choice to not be a central figure in his life. It was never me saying, I have better things to do than to spend my time with you. It was always taken away from me. It was always out of my hands. So it was definitely a sore spot for me to hear it validated like that. This was a couple of years ago, but like it really hit below the belt. Because we had to go through that phase where it was like you're never around. Why do you think you get to come in here and play the dad role kind of thing? And that was definitely a difficult time. But I think as a parent, and I think everybody has to go through that to an extent. Like, when you're raising teenagers, there's going to be some difficult times in there where, like, I remember telling my mom something not like that, but about, I spent a lot of time with my aunts and you don't realize the complexity of a statement. Like, she was an important person in my life. You can't say that. It's sort of in the complexity of when you're talking to your mom, or a parent who wanted to be a part of your life and is a part of your life, but hearing that somebody else played a strong role in your life. Anyway, but as I think about being a good father, that was something that is one of like chapter 1 of the story of feeling less than. But he really made me feel a lot better. For the first time, he gave me a Father's Day present. I think in his whole entire life, he gave me a set of headphones once. And I think because his mom was trying to get a 2-for-1 deal and bought herself headphones, and they gave me the headphones. I'm not trying to talk smack. I'm just telling a story. But anyway, and I'm not about presents, but yeah, if you ever see like, he gave me a pocket knife that has all these, utility knife. And on the side, it has it engraved. It says "Number 1 Dad." And like, I can't tell you how much that meant to me, like how big of a deal that was. My daughter has given me like a hat that said like "Best Dad," or like, and she's kind of like a t-shirt that said "Rad Dad" on it. I was almost gonna wear it on the show. She gave me a card this week, which we haven't really talked about my daughter, but I'm just saying. So I'm showing that if you're not watching this and just listening to it, she had this card, and it said, "You're such an important pizza in my life," and it has a picture of a dad and kid slice of pizza. But then on the inside, she phonetically spelled out "You are the best," and drew a version of the dad pizza, daughter pizza, and hers is far better than the artwork on the card, because ours are holding hands and have more hearts. So fully on the artist that made that card. But she's she's always kind of given me these. She gave me a heart painting, and but even then, my daughter loves me. And she's here all the time, but she spends a considerable amount of time with her mother, and it's been designed that way. Like, I work a lot of jobs since she was born to ensure that at first Julie didn't have to work a job, so she could just be there all the time. And especially since my daughter had like surgeries and like constant doctor's appointments and stuff, it made sense for Julie to stay home with her. But also, it was always very important, an important agreed upon thing that Julie wanted to be there all the time. And now Julie works at the school where my daughter goes to school, and primarily because of that reason, because she wanted to continue to be a constant part of her life. Even now, in the summer, she's working at the same school, and they're going all these field trips and everything. And you'll see her social media is like all of them spending every day. They are constantly like, it's just like mama daughter summer camp. They're just always, if they're not at a swimming pool, they're at horseback riding, or like she does the therapy for her legs, horseback riding, and or they're at some theme park, water park, or every day, just they're rocking it out. And I see my daughter very little in the mornings. I'll get up extra early and we'll play before I have to get ready for work. And then when I get home, we play. or hang out before she has to go to bed. But it's like I've seen this similar thing, you know what I mean? And it does sometimes, it really breaks my heart, because again, it goes fast, and then you're just like, I work all the time, to facilitate this sort of lifestyle for them, and um, I miss a lot of the things, where like last time I was around, she would say, she'd pronounce a couple words funny, because it's like the way little kids say words funny. And then like for example, she's on the borderline saying the word syrup. She says syllop. And it's one of the last remaining words that occasionally she'll say. She can say syrup, but she's still kind of, every now and then you'll catch her saying syllop. And I remember going to the car. She had something at her school that I ran in after work, and I went and watched. And she used to say Geels, all the other Geels. It was just a weird way that she would say it. And then she said, Dad, girls. And I just got emotional. Like I was like, no, still say it wrong. Say it wrong for Daddy. One more time. But she was aware of it. She was made aware of it by, whatever. And was proud that she was now saying it right. But it was just one of those things where it's like, but anyway, I'm not trying to be Debbie Downer about everything. I'm just, you think about what kind of impact you have on their lives. Today I was talking to her on the phone though, and she was crying about, she was emotionally upset about her hamster, and that had passed away, and was remembering it. And she was asking a series of questions, and I answered in the best way I could. But the answer that I gave her about her hamster, at the end of it, she's like, okay, Daddy, and I could tell that she was, it helped her. And I don't know, it just made me very happy to have been a part of it. I mean, and I'm not to say that what I said was correct. I mean, I think what the exact words had to do with her the hamster not remembering her, and wherever the hamster was in heaven and was doing all this fun stuff and probably didn't even remember us. And I think I just kind of talked about how we don't have all the answers. What we do know is that God teaches us to love each other and love all of the animals, and we don't know everything about the plan, and about how things go, but all we can do is love on them while they're with us, and and we did that. And I'm sure there's a more profound answer that I could give, but I don't have all the answers, and it just felt like that was as honest as I could be. And anyway, I know as a father, I'm trying to figure it out. It's different with a girl. Girls are I mean, I'm not trying to be like misogynistic or think that, but any parent you ask, raising a boy is different than raising a girl. Raising an individual is raising different than raising another individual. I was thinking about this the other day, and I don't know if it's on the Dead episode that I recorded and didn't put out, or if it's on an episode and I'm just repeating myself. Whatever. Fundamentally, they're different human beings. My daughter is uh, just imagination incarnate. She everything is playtime, is imagination. It's when we have we're playing with dolls today. It was about shoe shopping before a fashion show, and and I was like, well, yeah, well, definitely this publicist was trying to get the models to get the best shoes before they were on the catwalk, whatever. Whereas my son was very much about the function of the toy and testing the limits of whatever adventure toy that he had. Like, he had a 360, this little tricycle that would just do these weird tricks and stuff, and this green machine that was like these pumps, and it was a tricycle that did tricks too. And I remember being like, son, we were playing on the jungle gym, and I was like, how about this be a pirate ship and we're sailing through the waters, or a spaceship and he gave me like a look, like, or we could just like swing on swings, because they're there and they're fun. But it was two different people, you know what I mean? And with my son, I could tell him something directly, like, don't mess with that, son, or whatever. And with my daughter, I say, don't mess with that. And she'll start crying because allegedly I was too aggressive, or I was, raised my voice. But it's like, I don't know. I have a loud voice. I don't know what do you want me to say. Obviously I wasn't being malicious. I just don't want you to stick your finger in a light socket. It's not true. Wasn't what she was doing. But whatever it is, you know what I mean? Where I come from, if there's something that you're doing that's either dangerous or potentially dangerous, you have to say it in such a way that the person stops what they're doing and doesn't continue to walk towards that, traffic, whatever it is. But anyway, I got to thinking about, my father. I think my dad was a good dad. I think I look back, I think about the challenges that I have right now, and I think about it in sort of an abstract way of like the challenges my dad must have been going through when he was raising us. Generationally speaking, there was a lot going on. And when I think about, I can only think in terms of what I came up in a time, in a transitionary time, before there was internet, before there was cell phones. And as a father, I'm raising children in a time where they're inundated with information, sometimes untrue information. My daughter sees deep fakes of celebrities saying untruths, and doesn't know what to believe a lot of times. Where they're young people that are actually called influencers. That's legitimately their job, is to influence my kids. And you can shut off this channel, you can shut off this platform, you can but I'm just saying that there's the way that I'm handling the challenges that we're surrounded by as parents, how we handle these things. It's crazy. But even in that same sense, when you're coming out as my father grew up in the 50s and the 60s, and was there for my sister in the 70s, and for us in the 80s and 90s. Just the culture shock of those decades, and to think uh how much you got to give a couple of grains of salt, you know what I'm saying? Like, you got to kind of look back and be like, I mean, as a nation, we went through huge, giant growing pains, socially, and what we learned about. Even now, like, woke people can say that they have their opinions about uh, race, and but we're scratching the surface on um, on gender and sexual orientation, and our stance on mental illness. And um, I remember I called that a couple years ago when I was in college. I said, the way that people talk about racial issues, like um, homelessness and mental illness, are going to be prominently talked about in the same way that we just were ignorant to what was really going on. We had no idea about the way that they talk about systemic uh, racism and things like that. We're all ignorant. I'm ignorant, you're ignorant. We're all trying to figure things out, and over time we're learning one thing or another. Sometimes we get glimpses of the right way to treat people, but I mean, I could just imagine being a young man during where you grow up with your mom at home, working, and I mean, just in the home, taking care of the kids, tending to the house. And that's what my dad knew. And his father out working. And then when my dad was older, needing to have a two-income family with, my mom having to get a job and him having to work. I mean, just the civil rights movement, the Vietnam War, just one thing after another, after another, after another. Just, I have to give it to him for evolving and having to do that. I mean, but I think about some of the things about my dad. I loved, he had this ability to be silly. He taught me the freedom of and the positivity of being just funny or goofy. I remember we used to do these little shows for my mom where my dad would pretend to play harmonica with his hands over his mouth, and I would pretend to play. I would put my finger under my nose, and make noises with my mouth, my nose, and we would do songs for my mom when I was really little. And I think we wore stupid things, like weird, or all in a pursuit to just make my mom laugh. And we could sit around and he would tell stupid jokes, or not just funny jokes, or make funny faces, or make noises, or talk whatever, and would just have everybody just laughing. I never laughed as hard as I did with them. Yeah, he could hold a room and tell funny stories, but he was very humble. He had a great voice. He could sing, and every now and then would sing a line or two from a song. He would sing back up for with his brother. His brother would sing lead, but I always thought his vibrato was really spot on. It was very good. And when he would get excited about things, it made you want to get excited about things. Like he used to, I talked about it before, where he would bark or he would do a grito in a packed movie theater watching Rocky or whatever. He would yell at the movie screen, "Hit him again!" uh, and even though it was embarrassing to an extent, you know, it was what I'd give to do it one more time. Like I remember he barked at my aunt's funeral because he just wanted to lighten everything, the mood. Everything was kind of quiet and like you could hear like sobbing or crying. And then in this big vacuumous church, you just hear him roof, roof. And like there was an echo of it, and you'd hear people giggling, and he was laughing with everybody. But you know, he sacrificed. He worked all he could, and I know it must have been difficult to provide for all of us. So, but I think in retrospect, looking back, I don't judge him. I won't hear anybody judge him negatively. And not because of rose-colored glasses that I have to see him a certain way because, you know what I mean, he's my daddy or whatever. But because as a father, I know firsthand, I know the challenges. You don't know like what to do or the right things to say on all instances, and not everything just, you know, when you're learning, you're looking at the world, all you can do is the best you can. And I mean, hell, I had to learn how to do lots of different types of technology. I mean, I had those cliche moments with my son where he's like, "No, Dad, this you have to click this and whatever." It's like, okay, but or like when I quit smoking and my son was like it's okay that you're not cool to me, Dad, because I know that this is part of it. And me, I mean, and a lot of it was I wasn't like, I just was being like trying to get him to stay where, to do the positive things that I want him to do. But I was coming off like a jerk. Like I knew my patience wasn't there and I was going through things in my life. But he, you know, called me out in the best way he could. But, you know, in retrospect, I of course, but I was giving up smoking for him, for my daughter, and, you know, but in other words, all the fathers out there, all the parents out there, we're we're doing the best we can, and we have our own anxieties and our own like um, depression, and our own anger issues, and our own ignorances of things. We're just all trying to do the best we can, and the most important thing is that we're trying, you know what I mean? We're trying to be a part of our kids' lives. We're trying to say or do something that'll positively impact them. I mean, uh, I look back and I don't think of the times where my dad said or did something that I know was not correct. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not going to, well, that advice was, I remember him telling me that he thought I was smart and that he didn't want me working in a labor job because he felt that he worked his whole life, and that so that I could have the opportunities to be educated and to use my brain to achieve something. I remember that. I remember him driving around the city and finding me in some hole in the wall bar because he knew that I was in danger of falling into the wrong crowd. Even though I was embarrassed at the time, I still don't know how he found me, but I remember it, that he cared enough to do it. I mean, there was times, and as I kind of got into my teenage years where just there was a lot going on, and it was not easy for him. I'm not, he had his own fish to fry or whatever, and I guess things were just in a weird place. But I remember the times where he did care, He always cared. I'm saying where he did have advice, and he did try to talk to me about these things. I remember he would always say to my son that, hey, not all grandpas run around with their grandkids, and he would run in the backyard with us, until he could. He actually ran, and he never stopped running with him. But I remember seeing him. We went to a park. He wanted to go to the park with us, and he was saying, "No, this time I just want to sit down and watch y'all." And I remember because I always had this thing where I would try to get all the kids at the playground to play like together, like helping tag or something. And I remember looking over, and he had this big smile on his face. He was so proud or so happy that to see us play around and run around. But like I was thinking about how things kind of go full circle. Like I remember being little and holding my dad's hand, and he had rough hands, like of somebody who not only worked but played drums. You know what I mean? Like, and thinking of feeling how big his hands felt, and anyway, I was holding my daughter's hand. She likes to fall asleep holding my hand sometimes, and how tiny her little fingers feel. And I don't know what advice I give my son that he's actually going to hear. Sometimes I feel like he hears 10% of it. But I know he hears something, and that's all I can hang my hat on. Same with my daughter. My daughter, I think more than anything, well, both my kids, they love to laugh, and I try to be as selfless as I can be when I make jokes and stuff with them. Like I let her do my hair and makeup, and I do different dances for her and be as silly as I can be. But anyway, so I know this seemed pretty random and all over the place, but there's a lot on my mind when it comes to that this week. And I think on the other episode I talked about some random other things. Let's save the random other things for another episode, okay, guys? Y'all have a good week, and I'll put up another episode. We'll get to it on Sunday, And I'm sorry for this one coming out super late. Hopefully I can get it to work this time. And have a good rest of your week, and happy Father's Day belated. And take care of yourselves.